It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline. Brought to you by Ceasars Entertainment, where every guest is treated like Caesar and every visit is unforgettable.
And here we go. It is the Wednesday Ceasars Entertainment edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. Teddy Covers us here. I'm Dave Kochen. Jared Justice is producing the show, and on the line with us right now, he's the director of trading at Ceasars Entertainment, and that is the Junkyard, Jeff Davis. What's going on, man? How are you?
Dave, what's happening? How are you?
Well, it's been an exciting week from a betting standpoint and from a local team standpoint. You might as well start it off with the Golden Knights. They get an important win last night against a team that, look, a team that can be pesky, but one that they needed to beat in the Dallas Stars. And let's talk about the impact of the trade that brought Mark Stone here, what it does from a betting standpoint, and also what your opinion of it is.
You know, we lowered the Knights in the future pool for obvious reasons. We generally have been the highest price around town, pretty much knowing they're going to be a 3 seed and going to have to play San Jose or Calgary on the road in the playoffs. But now, while they're still pretty far back of those two teams, putting Stone in the mix here, I have them now second in the West from a power ranking standpoint behind San Jose, so some adjustment had to be made. And the guy's a top 20 NHL talent, and he's going to bring a ton to this team going forward.
And they really didn't have to, considering it's not a rental, he's signing a long-term extension. They kind of stole him. I mean, Brandstrom's a nice prospect to be sure. The draft choice is a second-rounder that they got from Dallas anyway, so that's no big deal. And Lindstrom's just kind of a journeyman, Lindbergh rather, just a journeyman. I mean, this is almost a steal for the Knights.
I think it's great, and while Brandstrom is a blue-chip prospect, he's not a big defenseman. He reminds me of Shea Theodore, and we already have Shea Theodore. Shea Theodore's a great offensive-minded defenseman. It sucks to see that guy go, but in the long run, we've got one of the best right wingers in hockey. The Knights have locked him up they haven't locked him up technically until Friday, but 8-year deal. The only thing that might be hesitant is it makes the salary cap situation very tight. Re-signing William Karlsson may become a bit difficult with this deal, but I think it was the right move.
We got to talk about baseball right now with MLB.
Wait a minute, I want to stay on the Knights for a minute.
Okay, go.
Because there's something else I want to throw in. Look, nobody's paying attention to them, but the Golden Knights are only 6 points ahead of Arizona, and the Coyotes have a game in hand, and they're a hot team right now. I mean, is there any chance they miss the playoffs?
With this ad, I really don't think so. I want to think they've gone through or they've hit the bottom and they've gone through their rut. Arizona's playing really, really well right now. That team can really skate. They play smart. They don't turn the puck over. I just don't know if they can score enough goals. If they give up 3, they really struggle winning a game. I think the Knights are safe, not out of the realm of possibility, but I'm okay with this one.
Yeah, exactly. The Knights are going to make the playoffs.
Well, I sure hope so.
Yeah. But when it comes to MLB, here's an awkward segue. There's no playoff talk at all right now. It's all about the league asking books in every state that accept legal wagering to take exhibition games off the board. They don't want us betting preseason baseball. What's your thoughts on this, and why on earth do you think that Rob Manfred and company are doing another, tone-deaf move at this stage of the game when it comes to sports betting in the United States?
It seems to me like chapter 1 of what's just going to be a money grab for the leagues. A couple of years ago or a year ago when sports betting expansion was being talked about, the league started throwing around this integrity fee, and this whole don't bet spring training seems like the beginning of the leagues turning back into the integrity fee and just finding a way to make money.
You know what amused me on this was the statement that MLB put out as to why it's such a bad idea to bet on preseason baseball. The teams aren't trying to win, blah, 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 blah. Or if they're just practice games, how come you charge admission?
Fair point,
really.
Dave.
Why don't you just give the tickets away for free then?
What
I mean,
about
if the game's
September baseball?
Yeah, really.
Half the teams are playing with the 40-man rosters and guys you'll never hear or see again.
And by the way, we'll just throw this in, and it's Alex Cora's words, not mine. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but I'm sure you've seen this as well, Jeff. He was trying to win exhibition games last year. He wanted to win the exhibition games to set a winning culture in the clubhouse. It's better to walk off the field after a win than a loss. Kind of worked out. So maybe these games aren't as meaningless, considering the world champions tried to win them last year. Maybe they're not as meaningless as Major League Baseball makes them out to be.
I mean, we can bet Nets, Knicks, and Suns regular season games. Why can't we bet exhibition baseball?
Unbelievable stuff.
I mean, what do you think of that argument? I mean, it really is just a flat-out cash grab. They're like, okay, if we argue this, then we can get an integrity fee, and we're going to get a percentage of every dollar wagered. This is a pure revenue grab for MLB and trying to set themselves up for future gaming revenue with this move right here.
I mean, I personally, I don't put too much stock into any of this, and I don't pay a whole heck of a lot of attention to it. It's just the beginning of, I don't think this specific move is a money grab. It's just the beginning of what will become one.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. If you want to handicap the possibility that some state will listen to MLB's argument and take exhibition games off the board, what would you make that number?
Well, it's minus infinity because Pennsylvania has already taken them off the board.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, this was a few days ago. We actually, it was originally approved in Pennsylvania, and we had them up for the first day, and then we were asked to not put them up anymore. So they are not up in Pennsylvania.
So somebody's listening.
Yeah, it's just silly. Anyway, NCAA Future Book. The NCAA probably hates it that we're talking about this, but we don't care. The Duke price has moved out just a little bit with the Zion Williamson injury, and, well, they haven't played quite as well lately. Where are they now, and who else is in single digits?
We're at 5-2 on Duke. When the Zion injury happened originally, we were at 2-1, and we went to 5-2. We took two really big bets immediately. But after the game against Syracuse, where they actually ended up grinding out a cover, they didn't look all that impressive. We're now back to 5-2, and nobody's really chimed back in. The Kentucky money's been coming hot and heavy. We're 8-1 there. Same with Gonzaga. We're at 7-1 on Gonzaga. The money keeps coming in there. And we are also in single digits on Virginia at 8-1.
So is anyone getting play outside those top four? Who are some of the popular long shots?
There are three other teams that are popular at the window, albeit not really long shots. North Carolina keeps taking money. Tennessee keeps taking money, and Kansas keeps taking money. There was tons and tons and tons of early Reno money, but that's subsided of late with their recent performances.
Yeah, and they might be one of those teams that is getting hurt by the fact they haven't played any real stiff competition now for a couple of months, and it might be starting to impact their play. I think Gonzaga went through that for several years till they finally figured out how to get through it, where they just dominate and look great early against big-time competition. Then they played junk for 2 months, and they would lose an edge off their game. I think Mark Hughes finally solved that, but I don't know if Musselman has yet with Nevada, and it'll be interesting to see how they perform in the tournament moving forward, because obviously the competition is going to be a lot tougher. Let's get to some games. Why don't we get to some games? Let's take a look at some tonight's matchups, and we'll size them up. We'll do that with our MJ Christensen 4-4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put the fours up. Put the fours up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
All right, guys, we can get the latest updates at Caesars on where these games are and some chatter on how we think they will go. And Maryland matching up with Ohio State tonight. And the Buckeyes, boy, this is a big game for this Ohio State team, Jeff. They're trying to make the tournament. They could really use a win against the Terrapins.
Tonight, there's no sharp interest on this one. Money's been coming in pretty equally on either side. You see a few more public bets on the Terps, but this Penn State team is they're pretty tough at home, and they're playing really well right now.
And I said Ohio State. Sorry about that. I meant Penn State, obviously.
Yeah, they're playing really well right now. They've won 3 of 4, and this could be an interesting spot for Maryland with Michigan on deck. So I wouldn't put it past the Nittany Lions to get one tonight.
I mean, the Terps have been road dogs all year. You know, I mean, they've been making me money on the highway. But at the same time, Penn State has finally figured out how to get W's after, how many games did they have this year where they close and fell apart at the end and close and fell apart at the end? And in this point spread range, once you start winning these type of games on your home floor, I'm with you. No surprise if the Nittany Lions pull off the minor upset.
Got a coach who's trying to save his job, too, and Chambers, who's definitely on the hot seat. Tennessee had let's just say a little bump in the road over the last week or so. And this is a scary spot for them because, Jeff, they're going into Oxford to face Ole Miss, and they've got the rematch with Kentucky on deck. So, this could be a difficult spot for a team that's not playing their best basketball right now.
That's true, Dave. And looking at this game from behind the counter, it is one-way action. We took some sharp Tennessee money this morning, minus 4.5. We're up to 5.5. We're still taking public money, minus 5.5. There's no Ole Miss money to speak of. It is a tough spot for Tennessee. They're not playing well of late, and it was interesting. They played a lot of the softer SEC teams early in the schedule, and now the schedule has become a lot more difficult. Maybe this team isn't as good as the rankings and the public kind of made them out to be a few weeks ago. Looking at Ole Miss, they're kind of an enigma. They won 10 in a row, then they lose 5 out of 6, then they win 5 out of 6. Who knows which Ole Miss shows up tonight, but we're hoping the good one does.
Yeah, one thing about Tennessee, Teddy, and this is, you can go back to, this is the Rick Barnes, I guess his legend, if you want to call it that. I mean, his teams look really good, and then all of a sudden, comes February, March, the competition gets tougher, and Rick Barnes' teams generally don't. They have not been teams that have gotten better late in the season. Are we seeing the same thing with the Volunteers?
I mean, we've seen it over and over again, and it was a team that, for as good as they were, they overachieved early. And, the schedule worked in their favor early, and they took care of business in every big game and played well in every big game. And that doesn't always happen from the beginning of the season to the end, and especially – this Ole Miss team, they've been struggling on the glass. That's where they're getting, and that's an advantage that Tennessee will have tonight. But if Tennessee doesn't dominate the boards in this game, they'll be in a dogfight start to finish.
Speaking of dogfights, lots of those in the Big 12 this year. It's been a really good conference. I don't think the Big 12 is going to produce the national champion, but on balance, from top to bottom, especially if you throw Oklahoma State out and maybe West Virginia, this has been a dynamite league. And Texas and Baylor is another good matchup tonight, Jeff. These two teams are probably going to be the NCAA tournament, but there's no love lost. It's an old rivalry that goes back to their old Southwest Conference days, and this should be a beauty tonight.
Yeah, I think so. And Davey took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to speak on how good the Big 12 is. And every night you look at the schedule, it's one tough game after another. It's so deep. These teams met a few weeks back in Austin. Roach had a great game for Texas. He's out tonight. Not too much sharp interest on either side of this one. I think him being out is going to make the difference. Baylor for me tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the Texas has lost a lot of their depth. It feels like they're just not a deep team right now, and that worries me late in conference play when they hit the highway in hostile environments.
And, of course, Baylor has been dealing with injury issues for quite some time, so they're a little more used to it.
And that matters.
It does.
The first couple of games without key players, you're in trouble once you figure it out. And Baylor has. They won 3 of their last 4. Although the one loss was about as ugly as it gets, that game at Texas Tech.
If you're going to lose, you may as well lose big. And that was a revenge game for Texas Tech, and they nailed them. This to me is, I think this is the college game of the night right here because Villanova was really riding high, making a push to be maybe even a top seed, maybe a number 2. National champs, Jay Wright's got them cooking again. But, they're a team that lives and dies from the outside. And when those outside shots aren't hitting, they're a very beatable team. Villanova is in a slump right now. JD, they've lost 3 in a row, and they're facing a tough Marquette team tonight. I think this is going to be a whale of a game.
Villanova's really been struggling on the road lately, and maybe getting back into their home gym sparks a run tonight. Sharp Nova money this morning, -4. Public all over Marquette, so this is an interesting pros versus Joes type game. Nova came back down